I'm picking a few favorites this week, but the underdogs I'm picking may shock you. We are back again for the UFC 320 edition of the Lucrative MMA betting show. Sit down, get comfy, get your popcorn out, because we're about to break down some epic fights in this video, including the rematch of Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira for the UFC light heavyweight title. But we're not stopping there. There's two title fights on this one. We have Merab Dvalishvili putting his bantamweight strap on the line against Cory Sandhagen. We could be looking at one of the greatest UFC fights in 2025 with that one. We've also got a bout of former title holders and contenders in Jiri Prochazka versus Khalil Rountree. You have to imagine that the winner of that may be in line for another title shot against the winner of Ankalaev and Pereira. Another guy who might be fighting for the title one day is Youssef Zalal. He is taking on Josh Emmett, and I'll break that one down for you in detail on today's show. So run the intro and let's get into this epic pay-per-view. So what's going on, people? We're back for another edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Show. Thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe before we get into the show. It helps me stay motivated to make these videos, and I've been doing these for a long time now, boys. I've been in the content space for over 6 years. I started off as a pure gambler, winning money, earning money from gambling. Then I moved into making some videos while still making a lot of money. It's been a crazy run lately. We're on a 5-week, I should say, winning streak. We have not lost in 5 weeks, and we're up over 125 units on the year. Maybe that's why I'm so motivated to put this video out, because we just can't seem to lose this entire year. We've just been winning and winning and winning. If you want to sign up to the VIP, the link's in the bio. But yeah, I'm super excited to break this one down for you guys. Magomed Ankalaev taking on Alex Pereira, where we cashed on Magomed Ankalaev in his last fight against Alex Pereira. In the first fight, we cashed on Magomed as an underdog, by the way. Plus 105 line we got on that one. And so I'm very excited to talk about it again. You know, we nailed it the first time, and hopefully I'm going to nail it again. One thing I will say, though, is that no two fights go the same in MMA. You know, it's very rare where we get a rematch that goes exactly the same way as the first fight. So although we nailed the first fight, it doesn't mean we can just do the exact same thing, give the exact same breakdown, and just go on that analysis. That's why I'm here in front of you giving you a new breakdown. So let's get into the breakdown. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. Magomed coming into this fight with a record of 21 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. Alex Pereira's record of 12 wins and 3 losses. It's crazy that Alex only has 15 MMA fights. It feels like the guy has 50 with the amount of high-profile fights he's been in the UFC. Currently, they got Magomed Ankalaev, the reigning, defending champion, as the favorite at odds of -205, with the underdog price tag on Alex Pereira coming back at plus 175. So the first thing that stands out to me here, boys, is that, wow, that's a big line swing. I remember betting Magomed Ankalaev as the underdog in the first fight, and now he's sitting as a -200 favorite, -205 favorite, right? So, you know, that's a very big line swing, and it just shows you that MMA is a market that you can beat. You know, he's the underdog when they first fight, and what, 6 months later, now he's -200. MMA is a market that can be very easily beat if you know what you're doing and you stay in it long term. So yeah, this is a very interesting fight to me, boys. It was interesting the first matchup, but it's still interesting this time around. One thing I'll say is that I was projecting Ankalaev to maybe get 1 or 2 takedowns in that first fight. And one thing I'll say is that he couldn't get Pereira down, man. He could not get Pereira down in that first fight. And we got to speak about that first fight before we speak about anything else, right? Because this is a rematch. Not only a rematch, but an immediate rematch, meaning I don't think much has changed since their first fight. It happened in March of this year, so you're talking 7 months ago. So I don't think much has changed. And like I said, in that fight, Magomed Ankalaev couldn't sniff a takedown. And it wasn't for the want of trying. Magomed tried to take Alex Pereira down multiple times, because why not? He's a kickboxer, an elite one at that. And he's knocked out almost everybody he's fought in the UFC and in MMA. So of course you're going to try and take him down. But man, he couldn't take him down. Something that impressed me with Alex in that fight, and I'd say probably the only thing that impressed me, really, was the takedown defense of Alex Pereira. You know, I wasn't impressed with anything else in that fight. And it's not because he's not good at anything else. It was because I was expecting him to be good at everything else in terms of striking, you know, distance management, power. Like, I expected all of that stuff. What I didn't expect was him to stuff every single takedown of Magomed Ankalaev. So Ankalaev shot 12 takedowns against Alex Pereira. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, but 12. And do you know how many he got? He got none. He could not take Alex Pereira down even once. So like I said, shout out to Alex Pereira. That's something that we have to keep in our mind moving forward into this fight. Because if he can't take Alex Pereira down, he might not win. You know, he could get knocked out on the feet. Any time you spend on the feet with Alex Pereira is the danger zone. You don't want to be there. And while Magomed did well on the feet against him in the first fight, and we'll speak about that in a minute, it doesn't mean that every single time they fight, he's going to do well on the feet. That's not how MMA works, right? Like I said, no two fights are the same. And we have to understand this as MMA bettors as well. Sometimes we'll watch a fight and the fight goes exactly how we predicted, right? But it doesn't mean that we made a great analysis. Sometimes it just means that that's just how the fight played out on that day. Maybe if these guys fight in 6 months, the fight will play out completely differently. And the reason we know that to be a fact is because we see time and time again, rematches go completely different than the first fight. So yes, Magomed did very well in the striking. I'm going to speak about that now. But I can't say he's definitely going to do very well in the striking every single time they fight. He might just get clocked by a left hook. But let's speak about the striking, because guess what? Magomed Ankalaev won the striking in that fight, or at least it was 50-50. So let's break the fight down into 5 rounds, because it was a 5-round fight. It was a very good fight. A lot of people booed and a lot of people didn't appreciate it. But in my opinion, that was an extremely high-level fight. And it was great to see the technicality between both fighters. It was like a chess match in there, specifically on the feet. So, you know, the fight started off with Magomed Ankalaev, and it continued like this for all 5 rounds, putting on heavy pressure to Alex Pereira. He was walking him down, landing big shots with the boxing. And something that Ankalaev did very well in this fight was he would throw a lot of feints. He would stay in Alex Pereira's face and he would try to counter Alex's shots. So because he was pressuring forward, Alex was retreating backwards. Alex had to throw shots. You can't just retreat backwards and not throw anything, because at the end of the day, it's not a good look to the judges to be on the back foot, especially if you're not landing anything. So, you know, to stop Magomed's pressure, but also to look good against the judges, if you're walking backwards, you're going to need to land some shots, right? And every time Alex would try and land the shot on the back foot, Magomed would look at the shot, find the shot, read the shot, and try and counter it. This is something he did for the entire 25 minutes. It was definitely his game plan to do that, to make Alex go first and to counter off Alex's jab, counter off Alex's lead hand, and sometimes to counter the calf kicks with strikes down the middle with the boxing. And he did it very well, you know, but Alex obviously, you know, read that as well, and he landed some of his own strikes. So, you know, the first round, boys, it was very tentative. You know, it could have gone either way. Alex was landing some very, very good calf kicks. It was basically a kicking fight for the first round. These guys were just kicking each other, you know. Magomed was landing some good body kicks. Pereira was landing some good body kicks. Pereira really invested in a leg kicks on that one. You know, Pereira was spamming the calf kicks. And I was actually surprised that Ankalaev's calf didn't buckle more than it did throughout the course of 25 minutes. I mean, I had a bet on Ankalaev, right? And after 5 minutes, I was like, damn, he better start checking those leg kicks. He better start checking them, because I don't know if he's going to be able to take many more of these. He ended up taking every single one of them for the next 20 minutes of the fight. So that was something I was very impressed at. But something I do want to say, boys, again, just like the first fight may not play out the same the second fight. Yes, Magomed Ankalaev took all those calf kicks against Pereira, right? But it doesn't mean that he's going to take the calf kicks in the second fight, because the calf is a very weird muscle. And if you hit the calf just right, just like the chin, it could switch off. You know, I have felt this myself in sparring when I sparred my trainer, a legend of Muay Thai, Kem Sits on Pinong. He hit me in the calf the wrong way, and it switched off, man. And I took a lot of calf kicks from multiple people, including Kem, on different occasions, and my calf didn't switch off, right? So calf's a very random thing. It switches off at random times. So are we really sure that Magomed Ankalaev can just take all those calf kicks? I'm not sure. Because what if Alex just lands the perfect calf kick? Like I said, it's like the chin, boys. Like, you'll see a fighter, right, take crazy punishment, you know, take a lot of shots to the head, and nothing will happen. Like, they won't get knocked out. And in the next fight, they get knocked out by a punch that looked kind of weak. You know, it's just like, sometimes you just get caught the perfect way. And one thing I will say is that Magomed Ankalaev didn't do a great job on checking the kicks. He kind of just ate them. Walked forward, kept the pressure on. He checked a couple, but he wasn't really making a good game plan out of checking the kicks and stuff like that. That's why Alex kept throwing them for 5 rounds, man, because he just didn't really feel any threat on when he did throw him. He never really got his kick checked to where his own shin would hurt, and he never got deterred from kicking Magomed's leg. So I feel like that's exactly going to happen in this fight. Like, Pereira's going to spam the leg kicks again, and unless Ankalaev does something to stop it, they could harm him more than they did in the first fight. So let's move on throughout the fight. So first of all, the 25-minute fight was extremely close, right? And I actually thought that Pereira could have edged the fight 3-2. You know, rewatching it the other day in preparation for this video and preparation for my own analysis and my own bets that I'm going to make on this fight, or potential bets, I actually thought that Pereira could have won the fight 3-2. But what was so funny about that was that the 3 rounds that Pereira could have potentially won were all 50-50 rounds, and all 3 of those rounds could have also gone to Magomed Ankalaev. The 2 rounds that Ankalaev won were 100% rounds for Magomed Ankalaev. That was round 2, when Magomed Ankalaev hurt Alex Pereira. It was an easy round. It was a clear round, even before he hurt him. And then it was round 4, when Magomed Ankalaev dominated the round with clinch control up against the cage. So what I'm trying to say, boys, is that even though Pereira could have won 3-2, Magomed deserved to win because he had 2 rounds that were clear and 3 rounds that he could have won. The possible scorecards in that fight range from 5-0 Ankalaev, 4-1 Ankalaev, 3-2 Ankalaev, to 3-2 Pereira, right? So Ankalaev deserved to win, in my opinion. But on that occasion, you could have gave it to Alex Pereira. I think in this fight, Magomed's going to have a similar game plan. I think he's going to walk forward. I think he's going to put pressure on. And I'll tell you something now, boys. I think Magomed Ankalaev has a great chance of knocking out Alex Pereira on the feet in this one. I mean, the only person who was hurt in the last fight was Alex Pereira. Magomed Ankalaev has a big durability advantage in this contest, in my opinion. And he actually does a better job at landing his punches. You know, he has to be careful in range because Alex was coming very close on some of those boxing shots. But at the end of the day, man, only one person was hurt in that fight. And only one person was landing on the chin consistently. And that was Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed has underrated power. And Alex Pereira has overrated durability. He has been hurt now multiple times by multiple fighters consistently in the UFC and knocked unconscious in the UFC, you know. So I feel like he's going to get hurt again at some point. And I feel like he's going to come against Ankalaev, man. I'm kind of predicting Ankalaev to actually land a big shot on him on the feet. One thing I will say as well, just like we can't say that Magomed Ankalaev is definitely going to withstand the calf kicks and the striking like he did in the first fight, we can't say that Alex Pereira is definitely going to withstand the grappling and the takedowns like he did in the first fight. Ankalaev might get a takedown here. He might just shoot a better shot. He might have a better game plan of what type of takedowns to shoot on Alex Pereira. Also, he was close a couple of times to getting Alex down. There was one specific time he was close. He tried to trip him. Alex had very good balance there. But look, shit happens in MMA, you know. Maybe he takes him down this time. And what happens when he's on the ground? I think Ankalaev has a massive advantage when it comes to the ground game. So much so that it could be one takedown and it is over. We could see something like we saw Diego Lopez versus Gene Silva, where he just takes him down and he is brutalizing him on the ground. He didn't finish him in that sequence, but he could have. And I feel like Ankalaev could finish Alex Pereira very easily if he gets on the ground. I'm not saying that's a guarantee to happen. I don't even know if the takedown's going to happen. But what I'm saying is that it's very live that Ankalaev has a considerable jiu-jitsu edge. And if he does get the fight to the ground with a trip or maybe even with a knockdown, doesn't knock him out, but now he's in top control, I think he can brutalize Alex Pereira. I mean, we've seen him do it to Jan Blachowicz on the ground. He brutalized them, and he's done it to other opponents as well. He doesn't shoot as often as I would like, but if he does get, and he's not a great wrestler, Ankalaev, he's not very good, to be honest, but if he does get you down, he can really go to work there. So, yeah, I think overall, when I look at this fight, boys, this seems like an Ankalaev spot again. It just seems like he's got the durability edge on the feet. You know, he can match Alex Pereira in the striking, in the boxing specifically. And because Alex Pereira knows that he can't get taken down, because he's going to get effed if he gets taken down, Alex Pereira is a little bit more wary on the feet like he was in the first fight. And he's worried about the takedowns. Magomed Ankalaev shot 12 times in that fight. So Alex Pereira is definitely going to be worried about the takedown, and that throws off his striking a bit as well. So I think he can match him in the striking. I think he's got better durability. I think he's got just as much chance, maybe even more, of knocking him out on the feet, probably 50-50. And I think he's got all the grappling upside. And if he does get the fight to the ground, he could dominate in him. And the last thing I want to say on the side of Ankalaev is that he won round 4 by grappling, even though he didn't get a takedown. He won round 4 simply by pushing Alex up against the cage and dominating him up against the cage. Alex just did not know what to do. He could not escape the cage control. Who's to say Magomed Ankalaev can't do that for a couple of rounds here again? So it just seems to me that there is so much on the side of Ankalaev. You can never be super confident in Ankalaev because I believe one of his terrible, terrible traits, you know, and he doesn't have many, is his fight IQ. I think he has very poor fight IQ. So we might see him make a mistake here. We might see him go to a different game plan that's not working, even though he had I could imagine he comes out of a different game plan that just gets him knocked out. Like, that's the type of thing that Ankalaev would do. I mean, just go look at his career. I mean, time and time again, he's dropped the ball, even though he's basically undefeated. I mean, he got subbed by Paul Craig. That wasn't a great look. His fight against Jan Blachowicz was a very bad look. He didn't start grappling till extremely late there. He was kind of lucky, to be honest, to get that one. So yeah, I feel like he showed some lapses in his fight IQ at times. So that's like one of the only negatives. But yeah, I'm picking Ankalaev here. I'm actually picking Ankalaev via KO here. Like I said, man, he hurt him in round 2 of the first fight. Why can't he do it again? And if he does get on top position, I don't love Ankalaev as a submission grappler, but I kind of like Ankalaev as a ground and pound specialist. And I think he could do some real damage to Alex Pereira on the ground as well as on the feet. That's why I'm calling the KO in this one. So Magomed Ankalaev is my prediction, just like it was in the first fight. Even though the odds have changed, I still think Ankalaev is going to get this one done. The next fight of the night, we got Merab Dvalishvili taking on Cory Sandhagen in the co-main event for the UFC Bantamweight Championship of the world. Merab Dvalishvili, going down as one of the GOATs of the sport right now, has a record of 20 wins and 4 losses. Cory Sandhagen, very similar record, 18 wins with only 5 losses. Currently, they have Merab Dvalishvili as a massive favorite at -400, with the underdog price tag on Cory the Sandman Sandhagen coming back at +300. So boys, this is another great fight, and I think this is the reason I was hyped to talk about this card with you. I mean, we've got Pereira and Ankalaev and Sandhagen and Merab Dvalishvili, and actually I'm much more looking forward to the Merab versus Cory Sandhagen fight. I love both of these guys, and yes, we've been on a crazy win streak in 2025, so that's why I'm motivated, but I feel like this fight is the real reason I'm motivated. I mean, Merab Dvalishvili and Umar Nurmagomedov, right? That could be my #1 favorite MMA fight of all time. Honestly, like, I love that fight so much. I just think it's an unbelievable display of high-level fighters, high-level martial arts, high-level mixed martial arts, high-level MMA, man. Because Merab, he's not the best martial artist when you talk about, I mean, put Merab on boxing pads, put Merab in a taekwondo ring. Like, you put Umar in a taekwondo fight and he's probably going to do really well, but you put Merab in some of these contests, like a Thai fight, he's not going to do that well in terms of technique, but his effectiveness is crazy. I mean, as an MMA fighter, Merab is like, you can't really get better than Merab, as an MMA fighter. Like, he's extremely high level, man. Like I said, not technically, but there's a lot more to MMA than technique, man. And yeah, that fight was crazy. And Cory Sandhagen's fight against Umar Nurmagomedov, that fight was unbelievable as well. And you could argue that bantamweight is the best division in the entire UFC. I think welterweight division is on a crazy come up right now. Flyweights are like my favorite division just because of the technicality we see. But I'd say like bantamweight and welterweight is probably the best divisions in the UFC right now. So anytime there's a bantamweight contest, you got to tune in, and this is maybe the pick of the litter. This could be the best bantamweight fight you can put on after Merab versus Umar, really. I truly believe that. I can't wait to talk about this one, boys. So where are we going to start? There's a lot of things I could say. There really is. One thing I'll say is that Cory Sandhagen is getting his first crack at the official title. He did fight Peter Yan back in the day. A lot of people might not remember this, or might not know this, but he did fight Peter Yan for an interim title. So it's not his first rodeo, but it is his first crack at the true bantamweight title. Merab, on the other hand, making his 3rd defense of the title, which is pretty considerable in the UFC bantamweight division. Usually people don't hold on to title for that long in this division just because of how high level the skill set is and how competitive it is. Merab, though, man, this guy's on a 13-fight win streak in the UFC. Hasn't lost since 2018. You're talking, this guy hasn't lost in 7 years and for 13 fights. I mean, he is a marauder. And we actually have two almost polar opposites in the fact that, like I said, Cory does everything very well. He's an extremely good grappler, does everything well, extremely well balanced, never really out of place on the ground or on the feet. Very good striking, very technical, very cerebral. He just does everything great. Like I was saying, you put Cory Sandhagen in a Muay Thai fight, he's going to look like a Muay Thai fighter. You put him in a jiu-jitsu contest, he's going to look like a great jiu-jitsu black belt, brown belt. You put Cory in a boxing fight, he's going to look like a boxing fighter. Not exactly okay. He's not going to come out like Terence Crawford or Canelo, but you get what I'm trying to say. He can blend in. Any gym that you drop him in, the trainer's going to be like, all right, this guy can fight whatever style that gym is, right? Merab's not the same. So we have two kind of polar opposites now. Merab's just like all pace, all pressure, all cardio. Cory's all technicality, all just cerebral game planning, all high-level martial arts skills. And they're both as effective as each other. I mean, at this point in time, Merab's is more effective than Cory's, you know, because Merab run through Peter Yan, you know. Peter Yan clearly beat Cory Sandhagen, you know. Umar clearly beat Cory Sandhagen, and Merab beat Umar. So, you know, it's not always about the best technicality. It is a lot of times just about who's more effective. So the way I see this one breaking down technically is that Cory's going to start off really well. I feel like Cory is such a level above Merab technically that's going to allow him to win the early moments, the early minutes, potentially the early rounds with a plural, because I feel like he could take the first 2 rounds here. If we go back and watch that Merab fight versus Umar Nurmagomedov, one of my favorite fights of all time, we saw that Umar took rounds 1 and rounds 2 clean. Round 1 was kind of close, but then he hurt Merab. And that's something I want to point out as well. Merab's not indestructible. He's been hurt multiple times in the UFC, multiple times. And he did get hurt by Umar in that fight, arguably more than once, but definitely, I believe it was the first round. He got clocked hard and wobbled, you know, but he just recovered so fast, especially because of how elite his conditioning is. This guy just recovers instantly almost, right? But Umar was just outskilling him for rounds 1 and rounds 2. I mean, at points, I'm not going to say it didn't look close because Merab always makes it look close, but I don't think it actually was as close as it looked at times, you know, because Merab was getting pieced up a little bit, body kicked. Umar was stuffing the takedowns. Merab was stuffing his takedowns, but Umar was just outskilling him on the feet. Like I said, there was one point in the fight where he hit 3 kicks in a row, like so fast, like left body kick, right body kick, left body kick, and Merab was just like, he didn't know what to do, man. It just looked like Umar was a level above, and he is a level above in terms of technicality in martial arts. But like I said, there's a lot more to an MMA contest. So what happened in round 3, the tides turned. In round 3, Merab wins that round clean. Round 4, Merab is like really getting going now. It looks like Umar is fading heavily. And we are 2-2 going into round 5 in an absolute war where both fighters have been cracked on the feet. Both fighters have been taken down at this point. I think Merab, the first time Umar was taken down was in that fight in the entire UFC. Maybe the same for Merab. I don't think it was the same for Merab. But yeah, it's a war at this point. It goes into round 5, and boys, this round 5 is 50-50. This round 5 is 50-50 up until 40 seconds left on the fight. I actually had Umar winning. Umar is going to be the next bantamweight champion, deservedly, up until 40 seconds left in the fight. And guess what happens 40 seconds left? Merab cracks him with a beautiful shot. Wobbles him. After that, puts his hand up in the air, gestures to the crowd, shoots him for a takedown, throws him on his ass, gestures to the crowd again, and it wins him the fight. You know, the last 40 seconds of the fight wins him the fight, where, in my opinion, he was losing that round 5 before that. So an extremely close fight, a 50-50 fight, but a great fight nonetheless. Something I took away from that one is that, like I said, Umar was just outskilling him, man. Umar was outskilling him on the feet. And so I believe that Cory Sandhagen can do the same. I think Cory Sandhagen can outskill Merab Dvalishvili early in this fight. Because if we go back and we do the reverse, right, and now we watch Cory's fight against the same opponent, which is Umar Nurmagomedov, which I always love to do, boys. If fighters have fought the same opponent, you better go watch that fight, because that fight could tell you a lot about how that fight is going to go. And what I see there is that Cory is not getting outskilled by Umar like Merab was. Actually, he's just 50-50 on skill. You know, now, to be honest, Umar does actually outskill him in the striking as the exchanges go later and later. And that was kind of surprising to me. Like, Umar clearly outstruck Cory Sandhagen over 25 minutes. Was it because of the threat of the takedown? I don't know. I just think he's a better striker than Cory, man. And when I say better striker, maybe overall he's not a better striker. Maybe he is. But just the way they match up, Umar's striking was just better than Cory's. And he just won on the feet, just like Peter Yan did. And we will touch on that fight in a minute. But it was still extremely close, and way more close in technicality and skill level from my eyes in the striking. So I feel like Cory will be able to outstrike Merab early. Now, is he going to be able to do it for 5 rounds? Well, then I'm looking into it and I'm going, all right, does Cory Sandhagen have poor cardio? Is he going to gas out? I'm looking at all his fights and the guy's not got poor cardio, man. The guy has great cardio, in my opinion. You know, elite cardio, in my opinion. Now, it's tough because in the first fight, right, of Umar Nurmagomedov and Cory Sandhagen, stick with me here, because I'm going in depth on this breakdown. And I hope you appreciate it, because there's a lot of moving parts here. And as I always want to do, give you the most information possible, not just have a 2-3 minute breakdown and say, yeah, that's who's going to win the fight. No, I want to give you all the information possible, because nothing is guaranteed in MMA betting. So if I give you all the information possible, you're going to be more likely to make the correct decision, right? Whether that's bet on it, pass on it, fade on it, whatever. And like I say, if you don't want to take in all this information and, try and compute it yourself and bet yourself, I'll tell you the exact bets I'm personally making and the exact amount of money to put on each bet if you join the VIP. The link is in the bio down there for that. But back to Cory's cardio. I watched the Umar Nurmagomedov fight, right? And he's out scrambling Umar Nurmagomedov, or scrambling with him for the entire rounds up until about round 5. Round 5, Umar is able to finally get some control time on Cory Sandhagen. And I don't know whether that comes down to the cardio of Cory being, failing him in round 5, or it was just that specific sequence Umar did better. I tend to think it wasn't a cardio issue. Like we'll never really know. Obviously, both of them were tired in round 5. We won't know how tired. But I tend to think that he just got out scrambled in that position, and it actually wasn't cardio, and it could have happened in round 2. It just didn't, right? The sequence just didn't play out like that. So then I go back and look at his other 5-round fights. Let me see where he's gone 5 rounds. Let me see if he tires out. So we go back to that Peter Yan fight. Peter Yan fight back in 2021, right? Very good fight, very close fight. Peter Yan pulls away in the championship rounds. Specifically in round 4, Peter Yan starts cracking Cory with some big shots. It's a clear round for Peter, and Cory looks like he's slowing down. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, damn, that might spell trouble for Cory. If he's crumbling under the pressure of Peter Yan, he's not going to fare well against Merab Dvalishvili. Now I go on to, and I'm doing this all in preparation for my analysis for this fight, right? And I'm watching it and I'm going, all right, let's see a round 5. Cory comes back in round 5. Cory gets a second win. Cory actually changes his entire style in round 5 because he knows he needs to. And yeah, he comes back and he fights well in that round. So then I'm like, damn, maybe it wasn't a cardio issue. Now when I think about it specifically and go back and watch that round, I think the reason Cory started to slow down is because Peter Yan started to put some big body shots on him and some big head shots on him. And I feel like it was the striking damage that slowed Cory down, not just the pace in general. So now I'm back to thinking that Cory does have elite cardio. And I don't think Merab can replicate Peter Yan's striking success in the later rounds on Cory. So I don't think Cory's going to slow down like he did in that round 4. And I feel like Cory's going to keep pace for 5 rounds. Now, will he slow down? Of course. Everybody slows down against Merab. You know who else has elite cardio? Umar Nurmagomedov. You know who out-cardioed Cory Sandhagen? Umar Nurmagomedov. He won round 4 and round 5 to win the fight clean. Because the first 3 rounds, Cory versus Umar, were 50-50 rounds. The reason Umar won is because the 4th and 5th round, and judges actually scored it 5-0 for him on one judges scorecard, but it was 50-50 fight. But the reason Umar won the fight cleanly in my eyes was round 4 and round 5, he won it clean, right? So Umar has elite cardio, maybe even better than Cory, and he got tired from Merab. So I do feel like Cory will, but the thing about it is, I think Cory's going to have a better game plan against Merab. I think Cory has some of the best game plans in the entire division. I think Cory's been there, done it at this point. Like I said, Peter Yan was in an interim title fight. It's not his first rodeo. That was Umar's first rodeo. That was kind of Umar's first semblance of real adversity as well. Cory, you could argue, but like I said, that was a 50-50 fight. I just feel like Umar maybe wasn't ready for that shot, and he still could have won the fight. Like, you could have given the 5th round, honestly. If it isn't end of round bias, he might still have won the fight. So I feel like if Umar fights Merab again, he could probably beat him, So I feel like Cory coming into this fight has a lot of advantages, man. And man, I'm going to actually end up picking Cory here. It's a long breakdown. It's a detailed breakdown. It could look like a stupid breakdown. Fading Merab Dvalishvili is not something you want to do. But at the end of the day, man, I'm an MMA bettor and I'm looking at the odds. I don't give a F who's going to win this fight. What I care about is the odds, the betting odds. Cory Sandhagen at plus 300 is crazy. In my opinion, Cory's going to win the early rounds. He's the better striker. He can knock out Merab, who's been hurt on the feet multiple times. He's got flying knees, spinning back kicks. Even his punches can trouble Merab here. I also believe that he's going to be able to scramble with Merab. I don't think Merab can take him down and hold him down like he'd done to multiple opponents, including his last fight as Sean O'Malley, and there is no way I believe that Merab is going to submit Cory Sandhagen like he did against Sean O'Malley. I think Merab is going to come in here maybe overlooking Cory. I think Cory's going to have a better game plan than Merab, and I think Cory is the better striker with elite cardio, and I think Cory has a massive chance to get this one done and become the new bantamweight champion and defeat the indestructible Merab Dvalishvili. I'm picking Cory Sandhagen outright in this fight at plus 300 odds. Let's see how it goes down, boys. I'm never afraid to put my predictions on the line, to put my face out there for ridicule if I lose. Bring it on. I love it. Cory Sandhagen is getting us paid at UFC 320. Let's effing go. The next fight of the night, we have Jiri Prochazka taking on Khalil Rountree. So this is a battle of former champions or contenders. So Jiri Prochazka, the former champion, has a record of 31 wins, 5 losses and 1 draw, with Khalil Rountree's record being 14 wins and 6 losses. Currently, they have Jiri at a -180 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Khalil Rountree at +155. So the first thing to speak about in this one, in my opinion, boys, is that, damn, I was expecting Khalil might be a +180, a +200, but I guess now Khalil has probably give, outside of Magomed and Ankalaev, he has give Alex Pereira his toughest fight to date in the UFC light heavyweight division. Much tougher fights than Jiri Prochazka, right? So I guess that is baked into the line. And also, he's coming off a good win against Jamahal Hill, where he actually beat up Jamahal Hill worse than Jiri Prochazka did. So I guess that's also baked into the line, you know, because I would believe that Jiri would be a -300 in this favorite a year or two ago, you know, but it's not a year or two ago. We're in 2025 and he's +155. So yeah, I don't have like the strongest take on this one, but I'm definitely interested to speak about it with you guys. So first things first, man, every time Jiri gets into a fight or Jiri's booked a fight, I'm like, damn, this guy might get knocked out, because every single fight he fights, it looks like he might get knocked out. You go back to the Volkan Ozdemir fight, which is his UFC debut. He gets rocked badly in that fight. He's able to weather the storm, and it's not even a storm. He just gets rocked with one shot. He wobbles, you know, his knees wobble a little bit, and then he gets a brutal knockout over Volkan Ozdemir later in that fight. But that's his UFC debut, and he's getting rocked in that one. So, you know, you can fast forward throughout his UFC career, whether it's Dominic Reyes almost knocking him out, whether it's Glover Teixeira almost knocking him out, whether it's Alex Pereira actually knocking him out, whether it's Rakic hurting him, whether it's Alex Pereira knocking him out again, whether it's Jamahal Hill stumbling him. Every single fight Jiri has had in the UFC, he's got hurt. There hasn't been one where he hasn't got hurt. Tell me a fight where he hasn't got hurt. And to be honest, tell me a fight where he hasn't got hurt kind of badly. Maybe the last one. But man, he was still rocked in that fight. Like every single fight this guy fights, he gets hurt. But guess what? He wins 80% of the fights. You know, he's only ever lost to Alex Pereira in the division. Khalil Rountree, in my opinion, is going to hurt him in this fight. Is he going to break Khalil Rountree? That's the most likely outcome. You know, one thing I'll say about Khalil is this guy is a confidence-based fighter. We know that for a fact, right? He's a very confidence-based fighter. He's spoken outright about mental health struggles and stuff like that. So, you know, even without that, we can kind of tell he's a confidence-based fighter. But definitely with that, we know he is a man. He is coming into this fight on the hottest run he's ever been on in the UFC history. He is coming off a fight, a war with Alex Pereira. You know, he got a lot of accolades in that fight. I'm sure he had a lot of confidence. Then he's coming off a fight with former title holder, right? So this is 2 title holders in a row, or former title holders. And now he's getting Jiri, that's a 3rd. Against Jamahal Hill, and, you know, he clearly beat Jamahal Hill. It wasn't a close fight at all. You know, it was an easy fight. It was basically an easy fight for Khalil Rountree. So I think he's going to come into this fight with massive confidence, and I think he's going to bring it to Jiri Prochazka. I mean, he brought it to Alex Pereira, so why is he not going to bring it to Jiri, man? Now, this fight is kind of simple. You know, Khalil's going to hit Jiri. I'm telling you that now, boys. Like, I don't care who you listen to this week. I don't care what you think. I'm telling you now, Khalil Rountree is going to hit Jiri with some shit. Whether it's heavy calf kicks, whether it's brutal shots down the middle, whether it's big hooks over the top. Like, Jiri's going to get hit in this fight with something big. It's just down to you and me to decide if it's going to be enough to knock out Jiri. Because if it's not, you know what Jiri's going to do. He's going to get his game going. He's going to walk forward. He's going to pressure. He's going to start to hurt Khalil. And we don't know if Khalil's going to withstand it. I'll tell you something now. I kind of feel like both of their durability is the same. I might even favor Khalil on the durability side. But the heart, the pace, the pressure, the will to win, and the recoverability is massively on the side for Jiri. So, like I said, if he gets his game going, he starts to snowball against anyone in the division. You know, you have to put him out to beat him, as we've seen in the Alex Pereira fights. You know, you need to put him out. Otherwise, he's going to keep coming. Just like that Glover Teixeira fight he did, he's going to keep coming and he's going to end up finishing you. So this is a great clash of styles. Very interested in this one. So, man, I'm looking at this fight, boys, and I'm going like, I don't know who to pick. Like, it seems like a very close fight to me. You know, if this was a couple of years ago, I'd probably pick Jiri quite comfortably, but I don't know, man. I just feel like he had a war against Jamahal, and Jamahal just looked terrible against Khalil. Like, he got knocked out by Pereira in a fight that wasn't close. The Rakic fight, yeah, he was kind of vintage Jiri, I guess, but he still got hurt in that fight. I just don't know whether he can come through. I mean, Khalil Rountree is way more dangerous than Alexander Rakic, you know, and he was getting hurt by Rakic. I don't know if he can come through the shots that Khalil's going to land on him. I think Khalil could win this fight. I honestly do. It's a 50-50 fight in my opinion, so I feel like the value is all on Khalil. You know, boys, as sports bettors, what we do is we bet on where the value is. We don't bet on who we think is going to win the fight. So I think there's hella value on Khalil Rountree at plus 155. And to be honest, I feel like the line's going to move a little bit. So I'm recording this extremely early, boys. So the line may be different, you know, at the time of posting. And I'm actually going to wait for that line to climb up a little bit. I feel like people are going to bet Jiri. I think people are going to bet Jiri at minus 180. You know, I think they would be reluctant to do it at minus 210 just because it's 2 versus 1. And I think people's brains work like that sometimes, you know, but I could see Jiri going to like minus 210, minus 220. And at that point, you know, Khalil at plus 170s, plus 180s, I'd love to jump in. Khalil via KO is probably a better bet than the money line just because you have to kill Jiri to beat him. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a 3-round fight and it's not like the Jamal Hill versus Jiri Prochazka fight wasn't close in terms of, you know, the scorecards. Like he knocked him out in round 3, but I felt like in general, it was kind of like a close fight. I don't know where the scorecards were. You know, it was kind of like a back and forth fight. So it's not like Khalil can't win a decision, you know. I mean, he just did against Jamal. It's not like he can't hurt him a couple of times, but maybe Khalil via KO is going to be more juicy and maybe a better bet. I don't really know. I'll have to see the odds, which are not out at the moment. But yeah, I'm going to pick Khalil in this one, boys. I'm going to pick Khalil Rountree. I'm going to pick him via KO. I'm not going to say I'm super confident in him, but that's another underdog that I'm picking. So let's go. War Khalil. He's going to land the better shots. He's going to land something big on Jiri, who has bad defense, bad head defense, who keeps his hands down low by his knees, it looks like at times. And I don't think that's a good thing going against Khalil. So I'll pick Khalil out right here, boys. I'll pick another underdog. The next fight tonight, we have Josh Emmett taking on Youssef Zalal. Josh Emmett coming into this fight with a record of 19 wins, 5 losses. Youssef Zalal coming into this fight with a record of 17 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. So Youssef Zalal currently the big favorite at minus 350 with the underdog price tag on Josh Emmett coming back at plus 285. So yeah, just like I wasn't confident on the last one, but I picked the underdog, I am confident on this one, and I would pick the favorite. I like Youssef Zalal on this spot, boys. Since he's came back to the UFC, he has looked rejuvenated. He has looked like a new man. I was lucky enough to see Youssef Zalal spar Aljamain Sterling in the UFC PI when I went there last month in Las Vegas, and he looked on point. I'll tell you that now. I know he's getting in to work with the best fighters in the division, Aljo Sterling, and a lot of other high-level fighters, even lightweights as well, not just featherweights. And I just feel like he's just a different level fighter than he once was, and he still once was good. Let me take you all the way back to October of 2020, October the 10th. To be exact, which is interesting because that's only 4 days after this event will be. This event's on October the 4th. So you're talking 5 years, almost to the day, where Youssef Zalal fought a hungry up-and-comer making their UFC debut. His name was Ilia Topuria, right? And Youssef Zalal gave Ilia Topuria probably his toughest fight in the UFC, even to this day. I mean, the Jai Herbert one, I guess we're going to have to say was toughest, but it was still a brutal knockout in round 2 outside of, you know, a couple of issues in the striking in round 1, right? But Youssef Zalal took him to a decision. Actually, the only 2 fights he's ever been to a decision was against Youssef Zalal and Josh Emmett, and now they're fighting each other. But one fight, he dominated and destroyed Josh Emmett with a 10-7 round. And one fight, he lost round 3 convincingly and gassed out in that fight and couldn't really hurt Youssef Zalal. Whereas we know what happened in the Josh Emmett fight. Now, yeah, it was his UFC debut, whatever. I'm not arguing about that. What I'm trying to say, the reason I brought that one up is because I want to speak about Youssef Zalal's striking defense. Everyone gets knocked out by Ilia Topuria, man. And if you don't get knocked out by him, what happens to you? Well, you get hurt on the feet and choked out like Bryce Mitchell, right? Or you get beat to a pulp like Josh Emmett. But you know who didn't? Youssef Zalal. Ilia Topuria was throwing bombs like he always does, and he couldn't really catch Zalal clean. And when he did, Zalal would still roll with the shots. And even if there was a clean shot in there, you couldn't really tell because Zalal's got an elite chin, elite durability. So I just really want to give massive respect to Youssef Zalal in general, even from back in the day, 5 years ago, in his striking defense and footwork. You know, it gave Ilia Topuria some problems, I'll tell you that. Ilia Topuria had to win that fight via grappling because via striking, man, he was struggling at points against Youssef Zalal. And what I'm trying to say is like, that was 5 years ago. He's a new man now. He's even better than he was then. And that, he was still good then, right? So I think Youssef Zalal is an elite fighter. Yeah, I think he's going to be ranked at featherweight soon. And you know what? I think he's going to beat Josh Emmett to get ranked at featherweight. All right, boys, I've actually just had a look at the featherweight rankings and he is already ranked. 1 underneath Josh Emmett. I didn't know that, so my bad. But let me go one further. I think he's going to be ranked in the top 5 soon. So right now he's in the top 10. He's ranked number 9. He's definitely going to beat Josh Emmett and take Josh Emmett's place here. In my opinion, he'll probably jump up to underneath Aljamain Sterling at number 6. Man, I just feel like the footwork is going to be the tail of the fight. You know, I feel like Josh Emmett's a little bit washed at this point in his career. I think Josh Emmett struggles with tracking opponents down if they have elite footwork. We've seen it time and time again. I also believe that Josh Emmett struggles with kicks, which is something that Youssef Zalal is extremely good at. I think Youssef Zalal is going to land the calf kick at will here. I think he could even land a head kick. I think he's going to land knees up the middle when Josh Emmett gets angry and starts to march forward. This is in a big cage as well, which is good for Youssef Zalal. I also believe that Youssef Zalal can throw beautiful kicks to the body here. We saw Yair Rodriguez hurt Josh Emmett to the body. And we also saw Yair Rodriguez choke out Josh Emmett. And I do believe that although Youssef Zalal doesn't have great wrestling, I do think that he may be able to turn something into a grappling exchange here. Maybe he hurts Josh Emmett a couple of times on the feet. Maybe he knocks him down with a head kick. Maybe he does what he did to Jack Shaw to initiate the grappling. And if he does get on top, I definitely could see Josh Emmett succumb into a rear naked choke here, you know, or some type of choke, maybe a dash choke or something like that with the long arms of Youssef Zalal. So that's going to be my prediction. Youssef Zalal is actually going to be Youssef Zalal inside the distance. Obviously, a decision is a little bit more likely with how tough Josh Emmett is and, you know, how much of a better wrestler or at least wrestling defense advantage he holds over Youssef Zalal's wrestling, because I do think the most likely path to victory is probably a choke or a club and sub, but definitely could be just a beautiful knee up the middle as well. But yeah, man, I'm going to pick Youssef Zalal. I'm going to pick him inside the distance. I'm going to pick him via submission, but TKO is extremely live as well. So yeah, man, Youssef Zalal, my opinion, very solid parlay piece at minus 350. All right, boys, now we're going to spin the Wheel of Fortune. This is the best part of the show. It's a chance for you to win 1 month free to my lucrative Elite Zone, which is my VIP where I give you every single bet I place and tell you how much to bet on it, along with a million extras. Now, all you need to do to enter this draw is to leave a good comment down below. You're automatically put into next week's draw, and I'm going to spin the wheel. So let's spin the wheel in a moment. If you don't win, don't worry. You can still sign up to my VIP and cash out with the team every single week. You need to go to sublaunch.com/lucrativemma, and then you can sign up. The link is also in the bio and in the pinned comment, so you can just click on it and sign up with us and start cashing with the team. We're up over 120 units in 2025. That is an insane amount of money, lads. Insane, right? And we're doing this basically every single week. Like, we've been on an uptrend, which has been the best run of my entire career. So I'm fully locked in and I'm trying to keep on doing it as much as possible. So let's spin the Wheel of Fortune now and see who wins this week. Let's go. Right, it's spinning now. There's a lot of comments, by the way, because a lot of you guys have commented every single week. So make sure you comment down below to be in with a chance. All right, it's slowing down now, boys. There we are. Big Sharma. Congratulations, you have won. Refer to the description down below to know how to claim your free month prize. And like I said, if you haven't won, all you need to do is go to sublaunch.com/lucrativemma and you can join my VIP and start cashing with me. My full card breakdown for UFC 320 will be out in a couple of days, so make sure you subscribe to be notified of that, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.